Hi everyone, thanks for tuning back in. Gonna tie another dry fly today for you. So we're gonna tie the foam done. So this is a pattern that Craig Mcdonald designed. And I tie it a couple of different ways actually. Always using the same materials, but sometimes I tie it with a longer tail. That way it will actually sit on the surface of the water. And sometimes I actually tie it with quite a short tail. And what that will mean is that the fly will actually then ride down in the water and almost fish like a bit of an emerger. So it's been a really successful pattern. I'm going to tie 16s today, but I would tie it in 14, 16s and 18s. Really good early season fly. So it's definitely one you guys want to get tied up in your boxes, ready for the trout season. So without further ado, let's jump into it. So in the vise we've got a size 16 Catskill long. This is a new hook from Partridge and I've been using it on this pattern as I've been tying these up, and I think it looks fantastic. So I'm going to put a bit of wax on my thread, and the thread we're using is, this is sheer 14 in Primrose or light Cahill. So I'm going to start about a couple of eyes behind the eye and cut out a butt end. I'm going to put a bed of thread down, so I'm going to come to the point of the hook and I'm going to come back up to our tying position there, and I'm going to counter spin my thread. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to stack some CDC feathers. So it depends on the size of the fly or how good your feathers are to how many you're going to need, but these are quite good feathers. So I'm going to see if I get away with just 3, and I'm just stacking them on top of each other and lining the tips up. And then I'm going to measure it against the hook shank. So I want 1 hook shank length for my wing. I'm going to tie that tight down, 2 or 3 wraps. And I'm going to pull my butt ends up and I'm going to cut them on an angle. And that just helps with the taper of the fly. So then whip them down like so, and then come right to the bend of the hook. Again, counter spin my thread just to make tying this tail in a little bit easier. And as I said in the intro, you can tie these a couple of ways. You could do a tail the length of the shank, or you can do a really short one. So we'll do a short one. So let's make sure they're right on top of the shank, like so. A little bit shorter there. And yeah, that'll do it. And then I just come up to that bump, and then I'm just going to trim away my butt ends. Like that. Alright, so next thing I'm going to come in with is this is razor foam. So this is from Wapsi. So counter spin a thread, and I've cut this to a point just to help the tying, and I'm going to just tie that in just behind that bump that we've created with the CDC. I'm going to keep counter spinning my thread, and I'm slightly pulling this. You don't want to pull too hard or it will just break, but it just helps slim that body down a bit as you come to just before that bend. Right, so now it's just a case of building a nice profile. So this body is just thread. So I just want to get a nice profile for the fly and just hide all those cuts and things that I've done. Check a wing there, got enough there. So all the while I'm counter spinning this just to try and keep my thread nice and flat. So that I think should do us. So we're going to come down And then I'm going to do some segmentation here. So I always start with a small segmentation, and I do a wrap, 2 wraps over, and I pull it for my second one, and then lift it back and come underneath. As I say, always spinning this thread as well. And then I increase these as I go. So I'm only doing 3 segments. And then the last one is bigger again. And I do 2 over that. And then I lift everything up, my wing and everything, and I come underneath. And I'm going to create a bit of a bed here. But then I'm going to put a thread down. And that's to prop this wing up. Like so. So then, come in with the scissors and cut that away. So then, next thing is just to put some dubbing on. So I just use a squirrel dub for this. Just a normal sort of grey squirrel. So you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it too tight, because having a bit of a scruffy thorax, I think, works well. So only lightly dubbing it on. So I'm going to hide that cut that I've done to the foam. And then I'm going to pull my wing up. I'm going to put a dam to try and prop that wing again. Like so. And then back to the front. And then I don't put any varnish on. I'm just going to give it a good wax. And then it's just a case of doing a couple of whip finishes. And that wax will hold that whip finish in. Always do 2, just for added security. So it's just a case of cutting away the butt end of the thread. And that's the fly complete. Now sometimes this can be frowned on a little bit, but the Czechs do it a lot. If you think your wing's a little bit long, you can just pinch it, you can grab a lighter, give it a little singe, and just push all those burnt ends away, and you would hardly know you've even done anything. And I use this a lot when I'm doing split wings, which I'll tie at some point for you. So that's the foam done. Now, I do it in another colour. I actually use a rusty brown, and that's great sometimes when they're on the spinners. I actually use it as a slightly different spinner pattern as well. So get some tied up, get them in your boxes, and get ready for trout season. I'll just clean that up a bit. So thanks everyone for tuning in again. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next video. All the best.